Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. Today I am showing you how to make a shaker Gable favor box. I have seen these all over social media. They are the coolest things and I could not find someone that was making or doing tutorials on how to make this. And so I figured it out myself and now I'm here showing you how to make it yourself as well. So you can continue crafting along with everyone else. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the entire design process from start to finish. Then there will be a second video that we're gonna do a series on this because the design process on this is a little long. So what I'm gonna do is break this up into a series. And the first one is going to be the walkthrough on how to make this entire design. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that one, just a basic simple one. We're going to cut that. That'll be the second video and we're going to assemble it. So then you'll know the assembly of all of this. Then for the last one, the third one is I'm going to show you how to create a full cute designed one. I'm thinking we're gonna do a little Christmas edition because Christmas is coming up and I want to make a whole bunch of these to do Christmas cookies, like Santa's Christmas cookies as like a favor. I think this is going to turn out so amazing. Okay, so important things that we're going to need for these. If you don't already have them, I'll link the ones that I have in the description of this video because they are very important to have. One is a scoring tool. This is what generally has like a little tip on the top, but I take it off so it fits in my shelves. But this is a little scoring tool that you need for your Cricut. This is very important for making these boxes, is a scoring tool. The other thing, I know that people get acetate sheets from Michaels. They are kind of on the expensive side and sometimes they're hard to find. So my thing that I use is transparencies. They kind of look a little hazy when you hold them up, but once you cut them, it doesn't look that way. So while they're not like super see-through, it's kind of like hazy, it doesn't give off that vibe when we're already done assembling it. So if you can't find clear acetate sheets at Michael's, just get some clear transparencies and I'll link the ones that I use in the description of this video. Okay, so let's get started. All you're gonna need for this is just design space and we're just gonna open up just a plain window design space. Okay, I made myself smaller and I put myself to the bottom so I don't obstruct the view. All you need to do is open up a blank window in design space and then press images. And all we're gonna do is search up Gable box. This one right here, this blue one, is my original one that I had used. We're not going to use that today just because I don't like the way that this box closes up. See how it's just kind of is free-flowing? We're not going to use that one. However, the one to the right where it has the little notches at the top, I want to create that one just so it has something to hold onto and so it's a completely enclosed box. So just press that one, click it up, and you can tell down here it is added into our canvas and then press add to canvas. There it is. We're just going to make this really big. We can resize this later, but just making it really big so we don't have to squint a whole lot. Now what you want to do is right click on it and detach because there's already score lines into it. We don't need them right away, but we're just going to attach them. The next step that you want to do is go into shapes and we're going to press the square that is not rounded corners. So just the square. And then we're going to work on the side that doesn't already have a flap to it. And we're just going to resize this. I'll zoom in just a little bit. So by taking the square, I'm going to unlock it up here and I'm going to make sure that it's just inside the score marks. Just to the inside so you can just hardly see the score marks. That's what I want it to look like. That is going to be like our centering tool. So all we're going to do is now we're going to take that basic cut and we're going to make that our guide. That is going to be our guide. Let's change this box to a lighter color so we can kind of see what we're doing here. There we go. See how that guide is now pink? We would have never seen that if the guide was still on. So there is that. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is insert another square with no rounded corners, and this is going to be our cutout for just the window pane. So then unlock this, and we're going to make this a little bit bigger than our than our square. You see how we have just the front right here. We do have a little leftover, but just the front right here. And then also the side right here. So we want to go outside of the score mark just a little bit. And I'm going to make this pretty decently large because I want the box window to be pretty filled up. You don't want to do the entire thing or it's going to be impossible to do the shaker, but just giving it, you know, a little bit of working room. I like that. Okay, and I think I want to make it just a little bit bigger on the sides, so I'm just going to drag this up. Now, taking your square, the one that you just created, press shift, and then your guide, that pink box that we created, we're going to align and do center. We're going to do this a lot of times, y'all. And then we're just going to recenter that pink box inside the score line. Just like we did before, that's exactly what we're going to do now. Okay, when I unclick it, see that pink line is just inside the score line. That's exactly what you want. Okay, then what we're going to do is duplicate this. Okay, then when we're done doing that, we are going to drag this over. We're going to make this the same height as our square, and we're going to make it just a little bit bigger than the rectangle that we had already created. So then drag this rectangle up, click on the back rectangle that we just duplicated. We'll change this to a different color so you can see what we're doing. Unclick this, and we're going to make this bigger than the initial rectangle. Okay, when we're done doing that, I'm going to make this square, this rectangle. Let's see here. We'll make this a guide for just right now. And then we're going to highlight all three of these and then doing another center. And see how now the original square guide is now over to the right. We're just going to drag this over until it reaches again inside those score lines. There we go. I'm going to press out of that. Okay, we're going to change that second guide that we do. We're going to change that back over into a cut, and we'll just change this to like a light blue. That is going to be our transparency. That's what our transparency is going to look like. Okay, we can send this rectangle back to the back. Now what we want to do is create one more rectangle. So click that rectangle, that blue rectangle. Press duplicate, line this back up with the blue rectangle that we have. Okay, instead of making this wider, what we want to do is make this taller. So then unclick this, and I'm not going to wiggle it around too much, but I am just going to make this just a little bit taller. The taller the box, the deeper the inside of this is what you're creating. That's like, and thing right here, trust the process. But this thing right here, the taller the box, the deeper this is going to be. Do know that. We can turn this into a guide just so we can see, you know, kind of how big we're making this. Make sure it's unlocked because you don't want to make it wider as well. Okay. And then when you have that, same thing as we did before, we're going to turn our one square into a guide just so we can see what we're doing. We can change it all back. Selecting all four of these now, going up and pressing center. Okay, you see how now our square is is way underneath our score line. So we just want to drag this up to where it's just inside that box. That looks good on all angles. Okay, so then we're going to go back in, change this one over into a cut file, and we're going to change this to like a periwinkle. This right here, we're going to go basic, and then we're going to change this into light blue. And then we have some stacks going on here. So, all right, backing up just a little bit, we're going to just zoom out just a little bit. We are going to hide this periwinkle square for just right now. We're also going to hide this blue square. So this right here, this original rectangle, that is going to be your window, right? So clicking the window and your gable box, we are going to right click it and we're going to press slice. Then all we need to do is slide over our slice. We don't need those anymore. And we're going to put that and send it to the back. We can go ahead and hide our square as our guide. We don't need that anymore. See these score lines? So you can keep your score lines if you wanted to, but we don't technically need these ones right here because there's nothing there. It's going to be like a clear window. So all you want to do is go over here into contour, and I am just going to click that score line and that one over to the right, and then click out of it. And you can see how the verticals are now gone. That's exactly what you want. Then we are going to unhide our blue box, our light blue box. This is going to be our clear transparency. That's what that is. So we can just drag this down and we can leave it light blue because that's going to be our clear transparency. Then unhide that periwinkle. This is going to be the inside portion, working portion of our shaker. So then go over here into shapes, and we're going to insert a score line, and we're going to make this bigger, and we're going to add this score line into our periwinkle box, but we are going to add it to where the original lines of the box are. It would probably be easier if we took this and we made this a guide just for right now so we can see through it. And I'll zoom in for you. This is our new score line, and I am going to just line this up with the original lines that it was supposed to be. So here is one. I'm going to duplicate it, drag this over to the original one that's over here. There we go. We want to make sure we're going outside, just a little bit outside of our guide. Then there's going to be one on top right here. So click that and then duplicate it. And then we're going to rotate this 90 degrees, and we're going to drag this up and we're going to meet it to that one. Duplicate it again because we have one on the bottom, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure it lines up with all the score lines. So now you're left with is 4 additional score lines. Okay, in order to get the box to be able to fold all the way down, you're going to need to do an additional score line. So just take that and just press duplicate. Okay, then what you want to do is insert another rectangle. So go to shapes and do a rectangle. And this top right here, in between this score line and this top, we want to make that rectangle the same height, same size as that. It's just going to be our guide. It's not going to be there forever. We're going to make sure that everything is centered. So then go over here into the check mark, and we're just going to drag this over. It doesn't need to be the same width, but definitely the same height. There we go. We can change this over into like a lighter color just so we can see. Now take that score line and then drag it towards the middle of your now pink box, and then click on the pink box. We lost the score line. We'll drag the score line up. There we go. Yep, now we can see it. So now we have that score line and that pink box. Select both of those and press vertical, because now it's going to be directly in the center of that box. Okay? Then taking the same thing, because we have to do whatever we do on the top, we need to do at the bottom. So we're going to take that pink box and that score line, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to go down to the very bottom, doing the same thing, making sure that it's all lined up inside the pink guide. Okay, then when you have that, you can delete both pink boxes. Let's zoom out just a little bit. And you see how these score lines are really long? You can just shorten them up to where they're in, like just on the outside of your pink box. Okay, then when you have that, we're gonna go in reverse, and we're gonna back up just a little bit, zoom out. Okay, clicking your Gable box and your score lines, we're gonna right click and press attach, and then just hide this for a second. Okay, this is what your almost finished inside mechanism is going to look like. So we can take our guide, we can change our guide into a cut file, and we'll change it to a lighter color so we can see what we're doing. Okay, and you see how these score lines are still really big? I can zoom in and just shorten them a little bit. Okay, now what we want to do is just take another shape and another square. I know I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but trust the process. We're going to unclick, And we're just going to make this one just a little bit. See how it's just going into that corner? We're going to cut those corners out. So we got one, and we're going to be, let me change this over into a different color. It's so hard to see with that dark gray. Now we're going to be on the right side of those score lines, and we're going to duplicate this and reset them in all four corners. Okay, when you have that done and they are on the inside corners, or I guess the outside corners of your score line, you can see the score line, it's just on the inside of that on all four of these. We're going to take all four corners, shift and click all four corners, right click and press weld. Okay, when that is done, click the four corners that you just welded together and scroll down and find our yellow square, right click and press slice. We're going to slice the corners out. There we go. And then we're going to take that box and we're going to send it to the back. And then now you have some like hanging over score lines. You can make this smaller, just like that. See how now you don't have any other score lines that are just hanging off. There's this one right here we don't need. Okay, now that the score lines are all put in place, we're going to add in, yes, another square. We're going to do a really small square. Let's zoom in just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. We're going to take this square and we're just going to make little tabs. So then come up here into your lock mark and we're just going to tab. And we're going to make this just, we're zooming right in because it's getting small. We don't need to make these too big, but we do need to make them a decent size so we can enclose our shaker. And then the other thing you want to be mindful is, and it's super hard to tell, but there is like a little gap right here. You want to make sure you leave a gap. If we're going to weld this in together, and once you weld them, if you don't have that little gap right there, you're going to have to use some scissors. So in order to avoid that, we're just going to make sure that there's a little gap. And we're going to do the same thing with all four sides. We're just going to make this just same thing. The tab size don't really matter. I don't really have them even on the original one either because they get hidden anyways. Then we didn't do this all on the four sides, just like we did with the corners when we are cutting them out, making sure that we leave just a little gap. Okay, you can see the little gap right there. All right, we're going to zoom out. Now taking all four of these new corners, tabs that we created, right click and press weld. And then we can take those tabs again, shift and click on our yellow box, and we're going to right click and press weld. And now we have little tabs. Look at those, they're so cute. And we're going to send them to the back. So arrange and send it to the back. Okay. For this, I am just going to make these score lines, the vertical ones, just a little bit longer so they also include my tabs because we do need score lines in those tabs. So just make that a little bit bigger. And it doesn't need score lines going left and right. It's just the vertical ones. Okay, that's going to be your inside working mechanism for your Gable box. So we're going to select all of those, right click and press attach. Attaching just means that we're going to make sure those lines stay with that box. Then we're going to find that box that we hid earlier. There it is. This is like some leftover pieces. We can go ahead and delete that. So what we have is the inside working mechanism of our Gable box. This is going to be our clear transparency sheet. And then we have the actual Gable box. So here's the deal. Unless you have extremely large paper, this is going to be too big. It's 53 inches. And if you leave it the way that it is, you could have a very small box. I mean, this thing is teeny tiny compared to this. This was the original one right here. And I mean, you maybe can fit 3 Hershey Kisses in here. I mean, let's say you could probably fit about 2 Reese's peanut butter cups. Those like decent circle ones, probably 2. That's how small this is. If you want to do like a bigger box, which is how I'm going to teach you how to do this, because I think No matter if you want to make a small one or a big one, you should know how to now customize the back of the box. Not that we didn't customize it enough. Okay, so we're going to arrange this to the front. Now what you want to do is we're going to cut this portion out right here. So we're going to click that and then press detach. So right click and press detach. And we are going to make this right here its own. When you piece it together, you're able to make it larger so you can create bigger boxes. So we're just going to take another square and we're going just to unclick it and make it bigger. We're going to make it bigger than the actual side that we're working on and get it as close to that score line as possible. See how there's a little hanging right here? We're going to insert another shape and we're going to make sure we cut that little shape out with it. That's going to be your tab. So we're going to cut that tab out with it. See how I just covered it? So taking both of these and I'm going to right click and press weld. And then going back out, we're going to take that weird shape that we did and also that box, right click and press slice. Delete this. Here is one portion. We can delete that. And here is another portion right here. So I'm going to reverse and then we're going to send both of these to the back. So right click or shift and click on both of them and arrange to the back, send it to the back so we can see where those score lines are. So same thing like we did before. I'm going to take my shapes and I'm going to create the new score lines for the new shape that we just created. And remember, we're just going to zoom in and line these all up. We don't need the score line here because it's cut. So we're going to turn this over 90 degrees. Duplicate and doing the same thing. Going right here. And then there's one more at the very top. So duplicate that. And there we go. Once you have that, now we can go back into the original score line and press contour. And we're going to get rid of the score lines over here to the left. So we don't need that one. We don't need that one, that one, that one. And it looks like it's going to get rid of all of the ones to the right, which is fine. So we'll just click that, and then go over. And you see how there's no more line right here? And actually there's no more line up here. So just take that another score line, duplicate it, and we're gonna drag this over. We're gonna, oops, nope. Drag this score line over. Where'd you go? And we're gonna match it to the one that is already existing, that new one that we created. And then we're gonna make sure that it's just bigger than our actual shape or box. And then we're gonna duplicate it and drag that over to the bottom of this one. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so now if you select all of this, make sure you get your score lines in that. Now you can drag this over. See how we created a total separated piece? That'll be able to make our shape, our box bigger. See this like little tag along? If we zoom in, we can insert another shape. I know, we keep inserting them shapes. And we're just gonna make it a little bit bigger than that little tag along. We don't want that corner to cut out the box though. There we go. Okay, now take that new square and the original shape that we have, right click and press slice. And now you're left with, if you delete all the extras, now there's no more tag along. We have now deleted that. Zooming out, we're going to take that and we're going to arrange that to the back. And we have to now attach all of our lines. So now select it all, right click and press attach. Same thing we did with this yellow square. We just attached everything. Now click that yellow square and we're going to drag this over and out. We are missing a line here and a line here. I just noticed we're missing some lines. So now we're going to drag that out and we're going to add more score lines to it. But there is one right there. Okay. Then I see like a double score line right there. So we're just going to hit the original score line, press contour, and we're going to get rid of that top one. Okay, go on, close on in. We do need the score line to go right here because right now they don't have a score line. So go into shapes and we're going to do a small little bitty one, lining it up, and then duplicate, and we're going to line this up to the right. There we go. Doing the same thing, we're going to select both of these and duplicate, and we'll just drag these over to the bottom and we'll line that up with the bottom. Okay, when you have that done, now go back, and all you want to do is now select that shape with all its score lines, just like that. Right click and press attach. So now you have two pieces for the boxes. This is going to be your inside working mechanism for the shaker, and then one transparency for the window of your box. That's it. That's our finished project. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot, but I swear it is. It is a finished box. Okay, in order to resize this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this all together, or you can Control A and then align to the center. And I am going to resize this all together. Make sure that this lock right here is locked, and the largest paper that width of paper that the Cricuts can cut is 11.5. So we're going to do 11.5. And then once you're done doing that, you can rearrange these to where then you can see them better. Okay, as a reminder, this right here is going to be cut out of regular cardstock. Heavier cardstock, the better, so it'll give it more like sturdiness of your box. This right here is going to be the inside working mechanism for your shaker. I cut it out in the same paper as the actual box. When we go into customizing this for designs for different themes, you can go ahead and change this over. That's fine too. But I am just going to change this over into the same color as my actual box because that's what I'm going to keep it to. And then this will be your clear transparency. So when you go over into make, you're going to need 3 sheets or 3 total sheets, 2 regular cardstocks and 1 transparency sheet. Go ahead and cut this and then go to video 2 on the assembly instructions on how to put this together. I will see you soon.